morning everyone. My name is Mridula, working as assistant professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at MLR Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. Today I am going to discuss a topic called SLD, cables and switchgear selection for an industrial purpose from the subject Industrial Electrical Systems. These are the contents which I am going to discuss today, like introduction to the SLD as well as the substation layout, cable selection, the switchgear selection, and at last the conclusion, how to select a cable or a switchgear system. SLD. What is SLD? SLD is a graphical representation of an electrical system. It's the graphical representation of an electrical system. There are many components which are being used in the SLD. SLD, you can call it as single line diagram. SLD is also called as single line diagram. So in this single line diagram, we will represent different electrical components. So some of the components are like the key components which are mostly used in the single line diagram are, first one is transformers. That may be a step up transformer or a step down transformer, or it can be a isolation transformer also. Second one is circuit breakers. Here circuit breakers also, there are different types of circuit breakers like MCBs, MCCBs, ELCBs. MCB is called as miniature circuit breaker. MCCB, ELCB, earth leakage circuit breaker, as well as ACBs. So there are different types of circuit breakers which are being represented in the single line diagram. And next one is bus bars. The bus bars can be of different voltages, like it may be for 11 kilovolts or 33 kilovolts or 66 kilovolts. Next one is isolator, which is one of the protection device. Next one is surge arrestor. So these are the basic components which are being used in the single line diagram. Here you can see the picture of a single line diagram. In this single line diagram, this is your main grid. That is, from that grid you are taking the power. So from that grid is being connected here to the bus bar, that is 22 kilovolts. The bus bar voltage is 22 kilovolts. To this 22 kilovolts, here you can see a circuit breaker is being connected, and from this circuit breaker, here you can see the transformer. This is a distribution transformer. This is a distribution transformer and its rating is 1 MVA. MVA means mega volt ampere. So this is your grid. From grid you are taking the voltage and you are connecting this to the bus bar, and bus bar voltage is 22 kilovolts, which is being connected to a circuit breaker here. Via that circuit breaker, the bus bar is being connected to the distribution transformer with a rating of 1 megavolt ampere. From this, the another bus bar, and through this bus bar, different types of turbines, generators are being connected using a circuit breakers again. Based on the load, this is your load, that is the generator or the turbine. Based on the load capacity, different circuit breakers are being connected. Here to this circuit bus bar, again one more circuit breaker is being connected. From this, another distribution transformer is being connected with the same 1 megavolt ampere rating, and from this we have connected to the another bus bar. Here the bus bar voltage is 415 volts. Previously it was 22 kilovolts. Now it is being reduced to 415 volts. That is the distribution transformer which is being used here. The distribution transformer which is being used between these two bus bars. This is bus bar 1 and this is your bus bar 2. Between bus bar 1 and 2, a distribution transformer in addition to circuit breaker is being connected, which is nothing but a step down transformer. Which is nothing but a step down transformer with a primary voltage of 22 kilovolts and secondary voltage of 415 volts. That means this is your transformer symbol. The input primary voltage is V1, secondary voltage is V2. The input primary voltage is 22 kilovolts. The output secondary voltage is 415 volts. And this particular transformer, as it is a step down transformer, the voltage on primary side is more when compared to the voltage on the secondary side. So, as we know, the voltage is directly proportional to the number of turns. So, primary side turns should be more when compared to the secondary turns, as it is a step down transformer. So, the 1 megavolt ampere rating distribution transformer is stepping down the voltage from 22 kilovolt to 415 volts, because 415 volts is the maximum capacity of this, maximum rating of this particular generator as well as turbine or different types of loads. This is a load that can be any kind of load. So, its rating is maximum is 415 volts. SLD design considerations. What are the different considerations to be known? That is system voltage levels. As I said, they can be of 11 kilovolts, 33 kilovolts or 132 kilovolts. So, the bus bar voltage can be 11, 33 or 132 kilovolts. Second one is fault current calculations. By using this single line diagram, we can calculate the fault current calculations at what particular point the fault is being occurred also can be detected. Future expansion planning. By drawing the single line diagram, we can know the future expansion planning also. So, the future expansion planning can also be represented in the single line diagram before itself. So, based on the future planning, we can we can connect the different types of loads or transformers, isolators. In this diagram, we can extend this bus bar, and to this bus bar we can connect again one more circuit breaker or a transformer, circuit breaker connected to a transformer that can be connected to the another bus bar. So, this future expansion can be done and the planning should be done based on the future expansion. The planning for this particular voltage as well as the rating of the transformer also should be planned before itself in order to increase the number of loads in future. So, we can design all these things in a single line diagram before itself. Based on the expansions, we need to decide the voltage rating of the first primary bus bar. This is nothing but your primary bus bar. So, the primary bus bar voltage should be decided in order to expand in future, in order to connect more number of loads in future. So, single line diagram, voltage rating is necessary, fault current calculations can be done, future expansion planning can be done, and safety and accessibility can also be viewed in a single line diagram. So these are the different types of considerations. Next one is cable selection. There are different types of cables here, that is XLPE, PILC and EPR insulated cables. And second category is armored or unarmored cables. So these are the two different types of cables, and the selection factor for these cables are, there are different selection factors to select a particular cable for connecting to the different types of loads or different types of transformers or to the circuit breakers. So what are the factors based on which we decide the diameter or the type of the cable? So factors are, first factor is voltage rating. First factor is voltage rating. So based on the voltage rating of a load, we will decide which type of cable should be selected. The second one is current carrying capacity. The current carrying capacity of the cable is also one of the key factor. Third one is short circuit rating. If at all any kind of fault occurs or if at all any kind of short circuit occurs in the middle of a circuit, the cable should be able to bear that particular short circuit current. So in order to bear that, we need to connect the cables above the capacity of the load. That means if the capacity of the load is X%, it should be almost 2x times. So the capacity of the cable should be more than the maximum capacity of the load. Maximum rating of the load. Short circuit. So the third one is short circuit rating. The fourth one is environmental conditions, that is the temperature, moisture or different types of chemicals. Temperature, moisture and chemicals. So based on these environmental conditions, we should decide the type of the cable, because some cables, if they are melting, if the temperature increases, if the cable gets melted, there is no use of connecting that particular cable. So the cable should be able to bear the temperature increase in temperature, it should be able to bear moisture, it should be protective from the moisture during the rainy season, and it should be protected from different types of chemicals also. The last point is installation methods. That is, the installation can be done underground or overhead or inside the ducts. That means during the transmission as well as the distribution, if these are the poles, to these poles we will be connecting the cables. So this is nothing but the overhead cables. These are nothing but the overhead cables. And sometimes we will connect the underground cables also. Ducts means inside the walls. Inside the walls you will call it as ducts. So the cables can be installed in the transmission line, that is overhead lines, and it can be installed underground, that is below the earth, or the ducts, that means inside the walls. So for any type of condition, for any type of temperature as well as moisture or chemicals, the cable should withstand and it should supply the power or the voltage. So these are some of the key factors for selecting a cable. Next one is different types of cables. As I said, armored or unarmed cables are there. Armed cables are stronger and are more protective than unarmed cables. Armed cables means the diameter of the cable will be more, the number of layers for protection. Layers for protection are more when compared to the unarmed cables. So, as the number of layers, protection layers are more, armed labors are more stronger than the unarmored cables. But they are more expensive. The armed cables are more expensive than this because the number of layers are more. Because the number of layers are more, the cost also increases for this particular cable. So, armed cables are used in hazardous environment, while unarmed cables are used in less damaging applications. That means there can be different types of applications. In some kind of applications, the cables may get easily damaged because there may be temperature reasons, or there may be transportation reasons, or there may be due to different types of chemicals. So, damage may occur. In that particular case, we mostly prefer more number of layered protection, that is armed cables, and the places where the damage is less. For that particular areas, we will be using the second category, that is unarmored cables. First category, protection. Armed cables, protection. Armed cables have a outer layer of steel tape or wire. Steel tape or wire that protects the cable from mechanical damage, that is breakage. Mechanical damage or breakage. To protect the cable, we will be using a steel tape or a wire. What are the uses? The armed cables are used in hazardous environment, that is like underground installations and area with high moisture levels, because these cables are being installed underground. That means during the rainy season, or maybe in any kind of reasons, the wet soil will be there, dry soil will be there, and inside the soil different types of chemicals may be got mixed. So, the cable should be able to bear these all different types of temperature conditions as well as chemical conditions also. So, in order to bear all this, we need more layers of protection, and those layers are being provided with a steel tape or a wire, and which is called as armed cable. So, the uses of armed cable is we will mostly used in the underground installations and where the areas are prone to mechanical damage. That is when there are more chances of mechanical damage. In that particular areas, we will be using the first type of cables. What is the cost? The cost is as usual more expensive because the more protection layers of protection is being provided, so it will be more expensive. This second type of category, that is unarmed cables, are being can protect, and they are lacking protection and more likely to be damaged. They can be easily damaged, that is mechanical damage may occur, and they are mostly used in less damaging applications like inside the walls. As I said, duct. Duct means the inside the walls. So, inside the ducts, we will be using this unarmed cables, and the cost of the cables is less when compared to the armored cables. The next type is XLPE PILC. XLPE is nothing but the cross-linked polyethylene is a material which is used to insulate the cable. In order to insulate the cable, we will be using a material like polyethylene, that is crossed, which is cross linked. So that is why the name XLPE is being given. XLPE cables can be unarmed or fire resistant. They can be unarmored or fire resistant. The second one is PILC. PILC cables are resilient, but aging increases the probability of failure. That is, when there are new, the cables can be easily used. Once the lifetime of the cable increases, the mechanical breakage, the chances of breakage also increases. The third type is EPR. EPR is ethylene propylene rubber. This ethylene propylene rubber is a made from ethylene or propylene that is used to insulate the electrical cables. These kind of cables are highly reliable and have greater resistance when compared to the first and second type of cables. That means here you can see three different types. In these three different types of cables, mostly the third one is preferred. And the IEC and IEEE are the different organizations that develop different standards for electrical as well as electromechanical industries. That is, for electrical and electromechanical industries, the different standards that should be followed is being done by IEC as well as IEEE organizations. What is IEC? IEC is International Electrotechnical Commission, which focuses on the life cycle of the electrical devices. The IEC standards are being used in many countries, and IEC standards are predominant in mostly Europe as well as in the Asia. The second category is IEEE. The second organization is IEEE. The IEEE means the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, which mainly focuses on the technical areas. Within the electrical as well as the electromechanical industries. That means IEC focus on the life cycle of the devices, as well as IEEE focuses on the technical areas within the electrical as well as electromechanical industries. The IEEE standards are primarily used as industry specific guidelines in the US. That is, here you can see IEC is mainly predominant in Asia as well as in Europe, and IEEE for the US. And some local standards are being also followed. Local standards may also apply in addition to the IEC as well as IEEE standards. That is, for each and every country, they will be having their own local standards based on their own local temperature conditions. So based on that, the local standards are also being followed in addition to the IEC as well as IEEE standards. Cable sizing calculation. Previously, you have seen different types of cables for different types of applications. Now, cable sizing calculation. The size of the cable is also very important. So, key factors for the cable sizing are the load current. The first key factor is load current. Second key factor is voltage drop. Third one is short circuit protection. That is, the load current, how much current is being drawn through that cable. Then voltage drop, what is the voltage the bus bar is being carrying. The third one is short circuit protection. That means if any short circuit occurs, it should be able to bear. So these are the key factors. And tools. There are different tools or softwares like ETAP or some manual methods. There are some softwares like ETAP as well as some manual methods to calculate the cable size. ETAP is nothing but Electrical Transient Analyzer Program. ETAP means Electrical Transient Analyzer Program. So using this program, using this coding, we can decide the size of the cable for different types of applications. ETAP is an electrical network modeling as well as simulation software tool. It is a simulation software tool used by power system engineers, mostly in the power system engineering, to create an electrical digital twin. Electrical digital twin means the electronic devices as well as the electrical devices, both connection and the connection between those two different types of cables and connections are being designed or being simulated, or any fault occurs, the calculation part is being done in this ETAP programming network. Here you can see analyzer. It analyzes electrical power system dynamics as well as transients as well as its protection components also. It analyzes the transients, it analyzes the different protection devices, it analyzes the dynamics also. Formula for the cable size. Cable size, mm, means millimeter, is equal to the current, I, current into 1.5. Current into 1.5 divided by the cable carrying capacity. That is cable current carrying capacity. There will be a maximum current carrying capacity of that particular cable. So that should be divided here. Cable capacity. So the cable size is equal to current into 1.5 times divided by the cable overall current carrying capacity. So based on this, we will decide how much is the diameter of the, that is diameter in millimeters of a particular cable. The second one, this is your first calculation. The second one is voltage drop index, VDI. Voltage drop index, you can see the formula is amperes into feet. Next one is voltage drop. Actual, here you can see actual length of the circuit into the voltage drop per meter divided by 100. Actual length of the circuit, the length of the circuit into voltage drop divided by 100 will give you the actual voltage drop. So there are different steps for calculating the current and different factors also to be considered. The steps are, the first step is calculate the current, voltage and current carrying capability of that particular cable. Okay, we have to calculate the current as well as voltage and the capability of the cable for carrying this current as well as voltage. The second step is use the formula to calculate the cable size in mm or the voltage drop. Third one is, if the voltage drop is too high, increase the cable size. If the voltage drop is too high, you can increase the cable size. these are the different steps for deciding the size of a cable, the diameter of a cable. The next one is factors to be considered. The first factor is cable current carrying capacity. The first factor is cable current carrying capacity, which depends on the type as well as size of the cable, which depends upon the type as well as the size of the cable. The second one is voltage drop. First one is current. The second one is voltage drop. The size and length affect the voltage drop also. The size and type will decide the current carrying capacity as well as the voltage drop also. The third one is load factor, means which type of load and what is the rating of the load which is being connected to the cable. So this is the ratio of load current to the rated current of the cable. That means the load current may not be stable for the let us take for 24 hours span. For 24 hours span, the load may not be stable. If your x-axis is your time and your y-axis is your current, that is load current. The graph may not be stable like this. The graph will be always variable. It may increase, it may decrease during the daytime or during the night time. So this load factor tells us the ratio of the load current at a particular point. The load current to the rated current of the cable, that is the maximum rating of the cable, that decides the load factor. Switchgear. What is a switchgear? This is nothing but the equipment for controlling, protecting and isolating circuits. That means if any type of fault occurs, if we need to isolate a particular circuit in order to protect the remaining circuit. So for isolation purpose or for protecting the main circuit or for controlling the circuit, we need different types of switchgear equipments. So the switchgear is used for controlling. First thing is controlling, second thing is protecting the device, the third one is isolating any kind of faults. So this is the purpose of a switchgear. What are the different types? There may be different types of switchgear elements like air insulated switchgear, which is called as AIS, air insulated switchgear. Second one is gas insulated switchgear, that is GIS, and the third one is combination, that is hybrid switchgear. So these are the three different types of switchgear which are being used for protecting as well as for the isolating the faulty circuits. The first one is air insulated switchgear, that is AIS. AIS. It is mostly used in power distribution facilities. It is mostly used in power distribution facilities as well as in small substations. It is commonly used in the residential areas and in the skyscrapers as well as public buildings and industrial complexes. That means they are mainly used in industries, tall buildings, that is you can call it as gated communities, shopping malls, and in different public places or buildings. For these purposes, we will be using the first type, that is air insulated switchgear. What are the benefits of AIS? AIS is an environmental friendly. AIS is an environmental friendly that gas insulated switchgear becomes because it is uses only dry air instead of gas. That means if at all any leakage occurs also, there will be no damage to the environment and there will be no damage to the remaining circuit. So here we are using only dry air instead of gas. So we can call it as it is environmental friendly. And AIS is simple in structure, small in size and inexpensive. The cost is also very less because it uses the dry air in that. The second type is gas insulated switchgear. Gas insulated switchgear, it is used in space constrained areas, that is in city buildings, on roofs or in industrial plants or in hydropower plants. GIS is also used in underground substations beneath the roadways as well as in buildings. That means GIS is mostly preferred in places where the area is very vast. When the area is very congested, we will be using AIS, and when this area is very vast, we will be using the GIS, that is gas insulated switchgear. What are the benefits of GIS? It is a highly reliable and it can withstand very harsh environmental conditions also. GIS requires minimum maintenance and it provides superior protection against the electrical faults. What are the benefits? Like it can be protected from different types of faults as well as for harsh environmental conditions also it is useful. But only thing is GIS can be used in space constrained areas only. Switchgear selection. How to select the switchgear? This can be done by using the voltage level, that is low voltage, medium voltage or high voltage. The second one is fault current rating. Maximum short circuit level is decided. Next one is reliability. Based on reliability we will decide. The fourth one is safety. And the fifth one is operating environment. So all these are different criteria based on which type of switchgear, that is the AIS or GIS or combination of two, that is third type hybrid. Which type of switchgear should be used? It can be decided based on the different levels like voltage, current, reliability, safety as well as operating environment. What are the challenges in selection? Overrating and underrating. If we are overrating it, if the rating is more of a switchgear, the cost increases, and if the rating of the switchgear is less, if at all any future expansions are being done, then this switchgear need to be replaced. The second one is cost considerations. The budget, the cost considerations are also very important. As I said, the overrating, if the rating is more, cost increases, but maintenance or future expansions maybe future expansions cost will be less. But for underrating, initial cost is less, but in future cost increases. The third one is environmental challenge. That means the switchgear or the cables are being placed underground or overhead based on the environmental condition. This is one of the challenge for the selection of cables as well as different types of switch gears. What is the overview? Here you have seen different types of SLDs, cables, switch gears, what are the problems that are being faced while selecting the size as well as selecting the switch gear, and mostly the safety as well as reliability and compliance with the standards. These are the different topics which have been discussed in this lecture. And in next lecture, I would like to discuss about lighting protection, about the lightning protection. Thank you.